I never thought my own family would become my worst nightmare. The security footage still haunts me, my brother Maxwell, standing in our darkened living room at 3 in the morning, touching my wife's photograph, smelling her scarf. For 6 months, he had been stalking Laura, showing up at her workplace, sending hundreds of texts, even creating fake social media accounts to monitor her. The worst part was discovering my mother had been helping him, giving him our new address, after we moved 300 miles away, to escape the harassment. That night could have ended in tragedy if our alarm system had not alerted the police. Before I tell you how this obsession began and the shocking lengths my family went to sustain it, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and subscribe if you have ever had to cut ties with toxic family members to protect someone you love. Laura and I met during our final year of college. She was studying art history while I was finishing my business degree. We literally bumped into each other at the campus coffee shop, her sketchbook flying out of her hands, pages of beautiful drawings scattering across the floor. As I helped gather her artwork, I was struck not just by her talent, but by her warm laugh and the way she immediately put me at ease despite my clumsiness. Our relationship progressed quickly. Within 6 months, we were inseparable. And a year later, I proposed. Laura fit perfectly into my life, her creative spirit balancing my more practical nature. Even my friends commented on how well we complemented each other. The only uncertainty was how she would mesh with my family, particularly my younger brother Maxwell. Growing up, Maxwell and I had a complicated relationship. 3 years younger than me, he had always lived in my shadow, according to my mother. While I excelled in sports and academics, Maxwell struggled socially and academically. My mother compensated by dramatically favoring him, making excuses for his behavior, and blaming others when he faced consequences. By the time we were adults, Maxwell had developed concerning patterns. He had never maintained a healthy relationship, cycling through girlfriends who inevitably left after experiencing his possessiveness and emotional volatility. He lived with our mother well into his 20s, working sporadically, while she supported him financially and emotionally. My father had passed away when we were teenagers, and without his balancing influence, my mother's coddling of Maxwell had increased tenfold. Despite these issues, I maintained a relationship with both of them. I visited monthly, called weekly, and invited them to important events. When Laura entered my life, I was hopeful they would welcome her warmly. Initially, things seemed promising. My mother hugged Laura at their first meeting, complimenting her artwork and asking thoughtful questions about her background. Maxwell's reaction was more difficult to interpret. He was unusually quiet during that first dinner, watching Laura intently but saying little. When she asked him about his interests, he became animated, talking at length about his online gaming achievements. Laura listened attentively, asking follow-up questions and showing genuine interest. Later, she told me she thought Maxwell seemed sweet but intense. "He reminds me of a puppy," she said kindly, eager for attention and approval. I remember feeling relieved that their first meeting had gone relatively well. If only I had recognized the warning signs hidden in Maxwell's lingering glances and my mother's assessing looks. The dynamics established that evening would evolve into something far more sinister than I could have imagined. Our wedding was a small affair, just 50 guests at a renovated barn outside the city. My mother insisted on being heavily involved in the planning, creating tension when she repeatedly dismissed Laura's preferences. Maxwell served as my best man, delivering a speech that in retrospect contained troubling elements, including several comments about how he had always wanted a sister and now had the perfect one. The first few months of our marriage passed without incident. Maxwell called occasionally, and we had Sunday dinner with my mother twice monthly. Laura and I were focused on our careers and settling into our new home, a modest house in a quiet neighborhood about 20 minutes from my mother's place. Laura had secured a position at a local gallery while I worked for a marketing firm downtown. If there was a definitive turning point, it was probably Laura's birthday, 6 months after our wedding. Maxwell showed up unannounced at our house with an extravagant gift, a painting by an artist Laura had once mentioned admiring. The present itself, while surprisingly thoughtful, was far too expensive for someone with Maxwell's limited income. "How could you afford this?" I asked, concerned about his finances. "I saved up, Maxwell," replied defensively. I wanted to get Laura something special. Laura thanked him graciously, but later expressed discomfort with the gift's value. It feels like too much, she whispered after he left. And the way he was looking at me all evening made me uneasy. I dismissed her concerns, attributing them to Maxwell's social awkwardness. He just wants you to like him, I assured her. He has always struggled with social cues. That rationalization would become a pattern, one I deeply regret. By minimizing these early warning signs, I unwittingly allowed a dangerous situation to develop right under my nose, one that would eventually threaten everything Laura and I had built together. The shift from awkward attention to outright stalking happened gradually. Maxwell began texting Laura directly, instead of contacting us as a couple. At first, the messages were innocuous, asking about her day or sharing articles related to art. Laura responded politely, but briefly, not wanting to encourage too much direct communication. As weeks passed, the frequency and tone of his texts changed. He would message her dozens of times daily, becoming agitated if she did not respond quickly. The content shifted too, with comments about her appearance or how he had been thinking about her smile all day. When Laura showed me these messages, I finally called Maxwell directly. You need to tone it down with Laura, I told him firmly. Your texts are making her uncomfortable. I am just being friendly, he protested. Laura and I have a special connection. She understands me. She is my wife, Maxwell. Your sister-in-law. That is the only connection you have. He grew sullen, accusing me of being controlling and misinterpreting his intentions. My mother called me the next day, berating me for hurting Maxwell's feelings. He is just trying to be part of your lives, she said defensively. You have always been so hard on him. Despite the conversation, Maxwell's behavior escalated. Laura began noticing him around her workplace, supposedly just in the neighborhood. He would appear at the coffee shop she frequented, or the park where she sometimes sketched during lunch breaks. When confronted, he claimed these encounters were coincidental, but their frequency defied probability. The situation worsened when Laura discovered multiple fake social media accounts following her profiles. The evidence linking them to Maxwell was undeniable, with recovery phone numbers and emails matching his information. These accounts commented obsessively on her posts, and even sent messages to her friends, asking questions about her schedule and habits. My mother's role in enabling this behavior became increasingly clear. When we limited Maxwell's access to our home, she gave him her key. When Laura blocked his number, he began calling from our mother's phone. Most disturbing was learning that my mother had been sharing personal information about Laura with Maxwell, everything from health details to work conflicts Laura had mentioned in confidence. During a particularly tense Sunday dinner, I confronted them both after discovering Maxwell had been parked outside our house the previous night. This has to stop, I said firmly. What you are doing is stalking, and it is illegal. Maxwell's face flushed with anger. I am protecting her. You do not appreciate her like I do. You are always working while she is alone. I notice things about her that you never do. My mother jumped to his defense immediately. Maxwell has always been sensitive and loving. Laura should be flattered by his attention. Many women would appreciate a brother-in-law who cares so much. Laura, who had remained silent throughout much of the conversation, finally spoke. This is not care or attention. This is obsession, and it is frightening me. I cannot work or sleep without constantly looking over my shoulder. My mother's expression hardened. You have always been dramatic, Laura. Maxwell has emotional needs that you and Aaron are ignoring. The dinner ended abruptly with Laura and I leaving, after it became clear no resolution was possible. On the drive home, Laura broke down. I cannot live like this anymore, she sobbed. I feel violated and unsafe, and your family is acting like I am the problem. That night, we found our kitchen window tampered with, though nothing was missing from the house. The police took a report but said there was little they could do without clear evidence or witnesses. When I called my mother to ask if she knew anything about it, she suggested Laura had probably left the window unlocked and was seeking attention. The final straw came when Laura received an envelope at work containing photographs of her. They had been taken through windows or from a distance, spanning several weeks. Some showed her sleeping in our bedroom. The message scrawled on the back read, "I am always watching over you." The police took this evidence more seriously, confirming the handwriting matched samples of Maxwell's writing I provided. They issued a restraining order, but the damage to our sense of security was irreparable. Laura had started seeing a therapist to deal with anxiety and insomnia, resulting from the constant surveillance. We made the difficult decision to move away, finding jobs in a city 300 miles from my family. We told no one our new address, not even my mother. The hope of escaping Maxwell's obsession and my mother's enablement seemed worth the career disruptions and the pain of leaving friends behind. For a few weeks after the move, we experienced blessed normalcy. Laura began sleeping through the night again. The constant checking of locks and jumping at shadows gradually subsided. We dared to believe we might have escaped the nightmare. Then the emails started. First to Laura's work address, then to accounts we had created after the move. Somehow, Maxwell had found our digital footprints. The messages contained details about our new neighborhood, suggesting he had discovered our location. When we changed our phone numbers, voicemails appeared on our work lines. The investigation revealed the devastating truth: my mother had hired a private investigator to find us and had been supplying Maxwell with information all along. Her betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. The woman who had raised me was actively endangering her own daughter-in-law to satisfy her younger son's obsession. The night of the break-in remains crystallized in my memory, every detail preserved by terror. Laura and I had been in our new home for just under 2 months. We had installed an advanced security system with cameras and motion sensors, more for Laura's peace of mind than any concrete expectation of danger. We believed the distance would protect us, that even Maxwell would not go to such extremes. We were wrong. At exactly 3:22 in the morning, our phones simultaneously blared with security alerts. The system had detected movement in our living room. Half asleep, I opened the app to check the camera feed, expecting to see a false alarm, perhaps our new cat triggering the sensors. Instead, the night vision camera showed a figure standing motionless in the center of our living room. Maxwell. He was touching Laura's photographs on our mantel, running his fingers over her face. Then he moved to the coat rack, removing her scarf and holding it to his face, inhaling deeply. Laura's scream beside me as she saw the feed will haunt me forever. I immediately called the police while she locked herself in the bathroom, terrified that Maxwell would come upstairs. Through the camera, we watched as Maxwell made himself at home, sitting on our couch, examining our belongings. He showed no urgency, no awareness that he had triggered alarms. He behaved as if he had every right to be there. Most chilling was his expression, visible when he looked directly at one camera, a smile of satisfaction and ownership. The police arrived within minutes, finding Maxwell still in our living room. He did not resist arrest, telling officers calmly that he was visiting family. In his pocket, they found a set of keys to our home, which my mother had somehow obtained from our landlord by claiming to be Laura's mother needing to deliver medication. The evidence against Maxwell was overwhelming. Beyond the breaking and entering charge, police found a journal in his car detailing months of stalking activities and fantasies about Laura. There were hundreds of photographs tracking her movements before and after our move. Most disturbingly, he had a bag containing duct tape sedatives, stolen from my mother's prescription, and a crude plan to take Laura somewhere safe where they could finally be together. My mother's involvement became clear during Maxwell's arraignment. She appeared in court not to support us but to defend him, providing bail money and hiring an expensive lawyer. When the judge asked about her role in helping Maxwell find our address, she was unapologetic. They were keeping them apart out of jealousy, she stated, as if explaining something obvious. Maxwell loves Laura. He would never hurt her. The prosecutor presented evidence that my mother had not only hired the private investigator, but had also maintained a shared online document with Maxwell tracking Laura's activities for months. She had photographed Laura's personal calendar during visits to our former home and provided Maxwell with information about Laura's medical appointments and work schedule. The court granted permanent restraining orders against both Maxwell and my mother. Maxwell was ultimately sentenced to 5 years for stalking, breaking, and entering and attempted kidnapping with mandatory psychiatric treatment. My mother received probation for her role as an accessory, though the judge noted her disturbing lack of insight into the gravity of her actions. The legal resolution brought limited comfort. The psychological impact of the betrayal remained raw. Laura required extensive therapy to deal with PTSD symptoms. I struggled with guilt for not protecting her sooner, and grief for the family relationships I had lost, not through unfortunate circumstances, but through deliberate, malicious choices. In the aftermath of Maxwell's arrest and conviction, Laura and I faced the difficult process of rebuilding our lives. The sense of violation lingered in everyday moments, from checking security cameras before bed to flinching at unexpected knocks on the door. Our new home, once a symbol of fresh beginnings, had been tainted by Maxwell's intrusion. Our first decision was whether to move again or reclaim our space. After much discussion, we chose to stay, refusing to be driven out by fear. Instead, we transformed the house, rearranging furniture, repainting walls, replacing the items Maxwell had touched. The physical changes helped shift our psychological relationship with the space, gradually replacing trauma with new positive associations. Laura's recovery progressed in uneven steps. Some days brought progress, others regression. Her therapist specialized in stalking victims and helped her develop coping strategies for the hypervigilance that followed her into public spaces. I attended sessions with her, learning how to support her healing without overprotecting in ways that might reinforce her fears. The hardest part, she confided during a particularly difficult night, is not knowing if I will ever feel completely safe again. Not just physically safe, but emotionally. How do you trust people? When your husband's family treated you like an object to be possessed, her question cut to the heart of our shared wound. The betrayal by my mother and brother had shattered fundamental assumptions about family and safety. If the people who should love and protect you could cause such harm, who could be trusted? The answer emerged gradually through connections with others who had experienced family betrayal. We joined a support group for victims of stalking and their partners, where we met people who understood our specific trauma. Through their stories and solidarity, we found a path toward cautious trust in others. My own healing required confronting the family dynamics that had enabled Maxwell's behavior. Through therapy, I recognized patterns established in childhood, the way my mother had always justified Maxwell's actions and blamed others for his choices. I had to accept that her enabling was not new, but rather a dangerous escalation of lifelong patterns I had normalized. The court-mandated no-contact orders meant I did not speak to my mother or brother for over a year. During this time, I received a letter from my mother, not apologizing, but explaining her actions as a mother's love and suggesting that one day I would understand her loyalty to Maxwell. Her continued justification confirmed that maintaining distance was the right choice for our safety and healing. While Maxwell served his sentence, reports from his mandated psychiatric treatment indicated minimal progress in recognizing the wrongfulness of his actions. He maintained that he and Laura shared a special connection that I was too blind to see. His therapist noted his persistent delusions and lack of empathy for Laura's fear. About 18 months after the break-in, I received a call from a cousin I had remained in contact with. My mother had been diagnosed with early-onset dementia, which raised complicated emotions. Could the illness explain some of her enabling behavior? Medical experts consulted by the court suggested that while the dementia might have exacerbated existing personality traits, it could not fully explain the calculated nature of her actions over many months. I arranged for her care from a distance, working through lawyers and social services without direct contact. This boundary preserved our safety while ensuring she received necessary medical attention. It was a compromise that honored my values without exposing Laura to further risk. As years passed, we gradually rebuilt our sense of security and happiness. Laura's career flourished after she was featured in a prestigious regional exhibition. My work allowed me to travel less and be home more, strengthening our partnership. The haunted look in her eyes faded, though it never completely disappeared. We made a conscious decision not to let fear determine our future. After much consideration and therapy, we chose to have a child, welcoming our daughter Lily 3 years after the break-in. Becoming parents carried unique challenges given our history. We established careful boundaries around sharing information or photos of Lily online and were selective about who had access to her. Our extended family grew not through blood but through deep friendships that evolved into chosen family. Holidays were spent with people who had demonstrated their trustworthiness and respect for our boundaries. These connections lacked the complications of my biological family, but provided the love and support we all needed. Maxwell was released after serving 4 years with strict probation conditions, including ankle monitoring and prohibited contact with us. My mother's health had deteriorated significantly, by then requiring full-time care. According to my cousin Maxwell, visited her regularly, but struggled to maintain employment or stable housing. Despite the tragedy of their situations, maintaining our distance remained essential for our family's well-being. Laura and I eventually moved across the country for her dream job opportunity, a decision based on positive choice rather than fear or flight. Our new community welcomed us warmly, knowing nothing of our history, until we chose to share parts of it with trusted friends. This fresh start, entered voluntarily and joyfully, helped heal the remaining wounds from our forced relocation years earlier. Today, our life bears little resemblance to those dark days of stalking and betrayal. Laura's art studio overlooking our garden fills with light each morning as she creates works that have gained national recognition. Lily, now in elementary school, brings home drawings and stories that cover our refrigerator. My relationship with them remains the cornerstone of my life, deeper for having been tested and defended. The experience fundamentally changed how I understand family. Blood connections guarantee nothing about love, safety, or respect. True family protects rather than endangers, respects boundaries rather than violates them, and chooses love over obsession or control. The family we create through conscious choice and mutual care provides the foundation for healing that biology alone cannot ensure. Have you ever had to create distance from family members to protect yourself or someone you love? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story of overcoming family betrayal and rebuilding safety resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories about setting boundaries and finding healing after trauma. Share this with someone who might need permission to prioritize their safety over family obligations. Thank you for listening to our journey from terror to recovery, and remember that your right to safety always outweighs family expectations or demands.